first moment, its silver flowers dancing around the red of the frame, peaked at its height like a tricorn. It had spoken to her. An image of the moon peered from an alcove on the right of its frame and said, Amor propre. Her stepmother had confided that it meant self-love, the two words coming together and cutting the bones like scissors. It glows round the want of the moon like liquid night, and I look up, and she is there, staring fearfully back at me. We smile. Our half-bathed faces shine, pale and argent, floating in a spill of long black hair that sparkles like the mirror glass at the shelved crown of the dark. Her eye is blue like a new winter sky, the other remaining in shadow. A small twitch of a nose rose before her lips, flaunting a red, lingering smile. A delicate finger touches her lips, tingling slowly across them and down the natural curve of her jaw to her slender neck. And I enjoy the intimacy and sensuality of it. She gazed back and brought up her comb, tightly wound in her hand, stabbing it into her head and dragging it down her hair. She must look like a princess, even though she was the other name here in the castle. I must answer to Maria, even when Maria was not here. She was a princess. Her mirror always told the truth. As red as blood, as black as wood, as white as snow, she whispers. As red as blood, as black as wood, as white as snow. Absorbed and slowing her brushstrokes in lengths of the words. As red as blood, as black as wood, as white as snow. Her grip on the comb loosened, lessening the spikes of pain that dug into her flesh. As red as blood, as black as wood, as white as snow. Less and less her scalp was pricked, fewer and fewer older wounds reopened. As red as blood, as black as wood, as white as snow. A tiny trickle wandered, carving a delicate line down the middle of her forehead. A red streak